Welcome to Moon Knight right here at Comicstorian. This is where we take some of your favorite trade paperbacks, single issues, and we break them down into digestible bites so that we could read them dramatically back to you. Today we're going to be covering portions of Moon Knight Volume 1 by Warren Ellis. Now, some of you long-term Comicstorian fans may be aware that we did the first story of this literally 5 years ago when it came out. Well, today we're going to be redoing that and then doing the follow-up storylines. Now that Moon Knight is going to be in the MCU universe, it's time for you guys to know the version of Moon Knight that they will most likely be using. So today is going to start with Issue 1 of Moon Knight Volume 1, 2015. Rumors began to circulate around New York of the return of a man named Mark Spector. Mark was a mercenary who caught the bad end of a deal in Egypt and was shot to dead by some of his friends while at a dig site. But he didn't stay dead. You see, he returned because the Egyptian god Khonshu willed it. When Mark returned, he didn't come back alone. Khonshu has 4 aspects, so Mark returned to the States with 3 other people. He's completely nuts. Even cut off a guy's face once, or so the rumors go. The mayor created a new sweeper squad to take on homicides, specifically of the unnatural type. So Detective Flint knows Mark Spector, or what people now call Mark Spector by Mr. Knight. You can always tell when Mr. Knight is out on a case because he drives to crime scenes in a pure white limo with a moon emblem on the front. As Mr. Knight drives in the back of the limo, he tells the car to show him the last 4 events in Incident Folder SL2. Also, driver, go to the new event location, Town Speed Park. The driverless vehicle responds with confirmed, and the limo begins to drive. Once Mr. Knight arrives, he puts on his mask, becoming the Moon Knight, or a version of it. And he makes his commanding presence known. As Mr. Knight walks towards the scene of the new murder, one of the officers asks if that is, and Flint tells him that Mr. Knight is just a concerned citizen. The officer stops, going, "No, that's Moon!" And Flint stops him. "No, if that man were identified by the name of a dangerous vigilante known as Moon Knight, then we'd have to follow a very specific set of standing orders and restrain him. So this is a thing that we do, to police the streets. That is Mr. Knight." As Mr. Knight gets closer, Flint tells him that they've got a slasher. Again, one of the first cases that they've ever worked together was a slasher. They should have known that this would bring him out. Mr. Knight kneels down to examine the body of the victim, stating that this isn't that. Slashers are bad enough, attacking people who only want to travel at night, but this one is a little different. The victim's a very strong man. Flint goes on telling him that all of the victims were strong men, bouncers, security, gym rats, and they all have bits cut off of them. Good sharp knife, real Jack the Ripper stuff. Moon Knight looks around the crime scene, stating that the cuts were sharp, but not medical level sharp. The killer is going after a very particular type, but he's not trailing them. This area is a tight spot. It means that the slasher is opportunistic. He watched the victims, and probably no more than a day. He was picking them for their size, but he himself is fighting like a wounded soldier. It's an ambush spot. This also means that he isn't far, cutting fresh pieces of human organs, but not going very far from here. One of the officers asks, "He?" And Mr. Knight tells him, "He. Weight distribution, height, and there's something wrong with his heel." The officer says, "Look, all of this talk is real interesting, but you're not a police officer. You can't just..." Moon Knight stops. He stares. "You're about to go underground into the hideout of a highly trained killer, which will be where he keeps all of his weapons. I'd prefer to do that part for you, sir." The officer laughs. "Haha, you're crazy! Also, hate to point this out, but you're wearing a white suit, and it's gonna stand out. He'd see it coming." Moon Knight buttons, and he straightens his jacket, fixes his tie, and he leaves. That's the part I like. As Mr. Knight leaves, he drives over to a nearby manhole cover and parks. He sees a rope tied to the top rung, stating that this is how he did it. He pulled himself up. Hard on the arms, easy on the legs. Well, this is totally a sane thing to do. So he climbs down into the sewers, following a blood trail to an old abandoned shield bunker. A voice calls out that they can hear him coming, and Moon Knight asks, "Over all the noise, you're running some heavy machinery down here." The man in the shadows laughs. "Sure, but these are important machines. Can't hear myself think sometimes, but that's okay. You here to take me out, you armed?" Mr. Knight tosses whatever he had in his jacket to the ground, stating, "Not anymore. I've come to hear your story." The mutilated man steps forward with a metal false leg, asking, "Story? I was a soldier, an agent for S.H.I.E.L.D. I was down here to get better. An IED blew the crap out of me and they wouldn't fix me. Said I wasn't fit for service and threw me out. But look at me now! I found the old medical equipment that they wouldn't use on me because it's not right or illegal. And look how much better I am." Moon Knight asks, So you killed healthy people for supplies? You go up, you hide, you watch, you track fit people, and then you kill them to take pieces of them down here and paste onto your body with obsolete exotic machinery. And this is the best use of their lives and your time and skills? The man laughs. Ha! No offense, but you're a mile underground wearing a white suit and a bag over your head. You're gonna die down here. Mr. Knight tells him, oh, I've died before. It was boring, so I stood up. The man pulls out a sword asking, are you supposed to stop me? And Moon Knight tells him, I stopped you 2 minutes ago. Look down. The man sees a crescent-shaped blade stuck into his mechanical parts, and Mr. Knight goes on telling him, that part looked important. The man lunges with his sword, but Mr. Knight steps back asking, what would this have been like if you had actually fought instead of hiding behind some garbage and stabbing people in the back from cover? The man pulls out a gun, telling him, how about we find out? And as he pulls the trigger, Mr. Knight takes out another moon blade, deflecting the shot, tossing it to the ground, telling him, not good enough, soldier. And with this mission successfully completed, we go back to before New York. We go back to where this all began. Mark had returned to get help. Maybe he was crazy. Maybe he did have schizophrenia. Maybe Khonshu wasn't an actual being. Turns out he had brain damage upon returning to the world of the living, raised from the dead by an outer terrestrial entity, and made to some extent to be that entity's operation. He was made to be driven by Khonshu's chosen agency, to bring vengeance to those who would harm travelers by night. He cycles through 4 aspects, struggling to define what has happened to him or to everyone. He seeks to apply identities to them. Whether it be Mark Spector, Stephen Grant, Jack Lockley, it doesn't matter. Mark Spector isn't insane. His brain has been colonized by an ancient consciousness from beyond space-time. And later that night, as Mark returned home, he holds his mask, staring at his other selves. But across from them, Khonshu sits in a chair. You are my son. In the beginning, there were 8, and then 7, and then 6, and then 5, and 4, and 3, and 2, and 1, and finally there were none. 8 murders, all shot in the head, shot with bullets that would come from a long-range rifle. Moon Knight glides over the city until he finds his mark. A sniper positioned on a building. Sometimes Mr. Knight does things too properly. It's during these times that Moon Knight walks. But as he approaches the sniper on the building, he notices something coming. The sniper hones his shot in his scope and fires an anchor to the next building while looking on the current one. Before jumping, the sniper pulls out a sidearm, but Moon Knight throws a moon blade, cutting it in half. As the sniper throws the broken gun at Moon Knight, he jumps off, catching the wire connected to the next building. Moon Knight follows, gliding over using his cape, but the sniper takes out a second gun, shooting holes through the cape. As he begins to plummet to the ground below, Moon Knight takes out his baton, firing a hook up into the room that the sniper crashed through, pulling himself up. The sniper turns back, bang! He fires a shot, hitting Moon Knight, but Moon Knight throws another moon blade into the sniper's knee, sending him into the ground. The sniper fumbles to get into position, asking, why can't he hit him? And Moon Knight tells him, because I'm not real. Moon Knight continues dodging the oncoming bullets and throws another moonblade into the sniper's hand, and the sniper scrambles to his feet and runs. Moon Knight quickly uses his baton again to launch his hook into the back of the sniper's back, knocking him down a second time. He then walks up asking, why? And the sniper says, because they left him. They dissolved the company. They left him to die in the field, and they went and got new jobs on Wall Street. They paid him, they used him to change the course of countries and history, and now they help banks. It may not have been a good life, but it was his life, and they took it. So he took theirs. Only one left. The sniper kicks, but Moon Knight hits back, knocking him into the next door. The door swings open, and a man with a gun is standing there. The sniper looks back, and the man shoots. Bang. As the man holds the smoking barrel. He says that there were 9 of them in a special operations group. He had a last-minute late meeting. He didn't leave work on time. They left the global security field and retired to large financial houses to make money. This man, he was their tool. A gun with the numbers filed off dropped into the street of Beirut or Mogadishu or Tripoli. Guns aren't supposed to come back and punish their owners. Perhaps his gamble is what they taught him. Guns are powerful. The distant projection of death is powerful. That's why they changed their careers. They learned differently. The bank always wins. Late one snowy night, a couple walks home when they hear something in the distance. The first man says that it sounds like music from when he was a kid, and the man's boyfriend asks, "What, like someone tapping two dinosaur bones together?" And the younger man laughs, and the older one says, "No, it's like a music box. Can't you hear it?" Soon the streets are empty, and a group of spectral thugs walk towards them and attack. So, the next night, Mr. Knight arrives on the scene, stating that the spree hitters appeared for a third time. Who knew that there were still punk gangs, kind of vintage? Mr. Knight gets out of the car, and as he swings at one of the thugs, his arm passes through. Mr. Knight pauses for a moment, and the Spectre grabs him by the head, slamming him into the hood of the car. Mr. Knight tries to push him back, but another whips his chain, cutting into his back. The thugs all gather around and begin kicking and beating Mr. Knight until he's left a bloody mess, and then they disappear. Mr. Knight returns to tend to his wounds, telling his other selves that this was different. He couldn't touch them. It doesn't make sense. Khonshu tells him, "I know. They are ghosts. You know full well that the angry dead can reach out and touch the living." Mr. Knight tells him, "Okay, fine. Ghosts are randomly attacking people in downtown Manhattan at night. They can touch me, but I can't touch them. What do I do? Sprinkle holy water everywhere?" Khonshu tells him, "You have collected items from ancient Egypt. You possess all kinds of armor and remnant for fighting the living. How can you not have garments for fighting the dead?" Mr. Knight heads into the basement and pries open a box, and when he sees what's inside, he says he doesn't remember buying most of this. Khonshu tells him, "Perhaps you weren't supposed to remember." So the next night, Moon Knight heads back to the area where he was attacked, wearing a new set of ancient armor, and this time he swings and he connects. The thug with the chain attacks, but the chain breaks on Moon Knight's armor, and he punches the ghost's arm off. Equipped with a pair of bone knuckle dusters, Moon Knight punches pieces off the ghost, rendering him to a puddle of spectral goo. He then turns to the others, and the ghosts begin to run away. He calls to his glider to give chase, but the ghosts run, phasing through a building under renovation. Moon Knight stops, pulling the tarp to the side, kicking the door in, walking through ready for another fight, but what he finds is a group of skeletons, all wearing the clothes that the ghosts were wearing. And in the middle of the room sits one with a gun and a music box. He picks up the music box, seeing a crack, and through it, the ghosts are hiding. He turns it upside down and sees a message. "Johnny, be good. Love, Mom." Moon Knight looks at the skeleton, asking, "Are you Johnny? Did you get in an attack of your conscience? It can happen. Did you sit here with a childhood music box, waiting for your fellow gang members to return?" Moon Knight then stands up, taking the music box, and he drops it in the river on his way home. And that is the first 3 issues of Warren Ellis's Moon Knight from 2015. Now, if you don't understand the concepts of Moon Knight, let me give you a little backstory. We have a video where we discuss the origins of him, but just in case you don't want to watch that, Moon Knight basically is... Everyone calls him Batman in Marvel. He's not essentially Batman. He's on a different level. He goes at night, he has a cape, he has his moon blades, he has his grappling hook, he does a lot of Batman things, but the difference is he has all of these multiple personalities in his mind. He's fractured and splintered, and if this video does well here on the channel, we'll eventually go back to the one where he was seeing a fractured version of Spider-Man, Cap, and Wolverine that he was talking to. That was a fun storyline as well. Moon Knight's always been one of my, I don't know, would you call him C-list, D-listers? That obscure Marvel superhero that no one knows who he is and jokes that he's Batman, but he's always been on my list. Him and Iron Fist have always been 2 of my favorite heroes that none of you guys know about. Either way, he's awesome. I hope you guys enjoyed this, and let me know in the comments down below if you want us to do the entire Warren Ellis run. Give this video a like, let us know that down below, and don't forget to check out our Patreon, patreon.com/Comicstorian. At this point, with the way the algorithm functions, that is kind of our source of funding, so if you like these videos and want them to keep going, even our $2 tier really does help us out. Either way, guys, thank you so much, and I will see you guys next time right here at the Comicstorian channel.